I would like to give you today's very special speaker, Sheikh Abdulaziz bin Mubarak Al Khalifa, who is a senior member of the Kingdom of Bahrain's royal family. He served as the nation's ambassador to the UK. He also served as international media advisor, as assistant under secretary of foreign affairs, and director of information at the Prime Minister's office in Bahrain. Ambassador Al Khalifa received his BA in International Affairs from American University and received his business diploma from Mubarak College, also completing a mid-career executive program at Harvard University's Kennedy School of Government. He lives in Manama with his wife and twin boys. I'm very proud to say that Sheikh Abdulaziz is also a member of our advisory board, and he has been a supporter of ropes basically from, I think, almost the very beginning, isn't it right? Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ksenia. Good evening, everyone. I'm Abdulaziz Al Khalifa from Bahrain. A little bit about Bahrain. It's a small country in the Gulf with a small Jewish community. And I met Ben, I think in 2017 at the birthing of ropes. It was an idea, and I gave him my full-hearted support. I think more than ever at this time, we should all be speaking out louder about finding an end solution for a secure Israel and a free Palestine. You know, I'm a bit of an optimist, and I would like to think about the way forward. One of the first things that took place after October the 7th was, I phoned my Jewish friends in Bahrain. We have Ambassador Huda, Israel Nuno, who lives in Bahrain. And I said, are you fine? And anything changed? And she said, no, she's going about her daily life with no intimidation or any changes of attitude. And so I wanted to make sure that the Jewish people in my country were not being harassed in any way. And I was comforted. And so that really goes to show that Muslims and Jews can live next to each other and in peace and help each other no matter what. This is strictly an Israeli-Palestinian issue, and we should all get involved in finding a solution. You know, the Abraham Accords was a message to say we, Bahrain and the UAE, the original two countries who took the plunge. I see it as taking the plunge of saying to the Israeli government, to the Israeli people, here we are coming in peace, and we want to cooperate. We come to make peace warmly, and not the so-called cold peace, but we mean to do business, and let us be in the same room around the same table. So it was a different government. It was a different time. No one thought an ultra-Orthodox extreme government would come into power in Israel and take the steps that we saw, that actually I see as dividing Israel itself. And so we saw the demonstrations on the street, and we saw all that. And so that sends a message that actually even Israel itself is trying to probably find the right vehicle to move forward. But I would like to stay positive on this. And yes, the next morning or the day after is the day that I think we should all be screaming out that something needs to be done. And one of the things is now maybe we're looking at new partners, and the partners can be the members of the Abraham Accords, and it can be the powerful other Gulf states like Saudi Arabia. So I can see a formula, and I think, with other minds with me, we can come up with a formula on how to take this forward. and we have moderate-minded Palestinians and moderate-minded Israelis, and we have organizations like All MEP and Ropes, especially to do something about this. So I encourage everybody to bring something to the table and actually help Ropes to form some kind of pathway forward where we can all speak up, and maybe, and just maybe, the world will listen. Thank you, Ksenia. And before I actually go, I want to say how well you did on CNN very early on. You were amazing, and I thank you for that. Thank you for your interpretation and for your participation on that channel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear friend. It was indeed a great platform to say that what many of us in Israel feel, that humanitarian disaster in Gaza, it's also a humanitarian disaster for Israel.
Yes.
That it in no way serves any of the Israel interests, and of course it will not provide us with security or any of the things we would like to aspire. So we should act on that. And again, thank you very much. Thank you very much, because we share the common view on in this regards. So there is already a question for you that is coming from Aaron Porras from the Media Line. The Bahraini people seem to be more and more vocal, seeking the government to demoralize relations with Israel. Do you see this happening? This is basically about the possibility of cutting the relations and all of the demos that we see now after the war, but also before.
Actually, this will not happen. We are not going to be influenced by, even though there are people who speak out, if they're not a significant majority, I think we made the right decision. As you know, Bahrainis also consist of around 50% Shia Bahrainis, and some of them, not all of them, seem to be more sympathetic to a more extreme points of view. But the government will not be, phased by that. And so we will stick to this. You cannot keep changing sides every time you don't like a government coming into power of a country that you have a relationship with. We see this not just with Israel, but many other countries. You have leftist governments coming into power that you've had relationship for a long time, and you're just going to have to wait it out and hope that a new government comes in and you can do business with. So no, we are not going to let that affect us.
So using my prerogative, using my prerogative as a host, I would like to ask you about the role of Iran, because we in Israel, of course, we are very worried because we see the proxies of Iran working against us and also against the US and also against the Gulf countries. In Yemen, in Syria, in Lebanon, in Iraq. And what is the situation in Bahrain? Does it has any influence on some people in your country?
Yes, definitely. I mean, part of the reasons for the Abraham Accords was actually there was so much in common between us and Israel. We have the challenges, firstly, of the direct terrorist threats from Iran. Again, Bahrain having a substantial Shia community, of which some are sympathetic to the extreme Iranian government, have been slightly, challenging. But other than those challenges of political issues, we have agriculture in the desert, we have IT, we have cybersecurity, and all of that came in a beautiful package that we thought that we could approach and do business with, without losing the sight of an end solution to the Palestinian issue. But definitely, the problem of Iran will still be there, and that's why we need to be all on the right side of history, and we need to all become part of a community that can face those kind of challenges. And we would love not just Bahrain and UAE and Morocco and the other countries of the Abraham Accords, but all of the Arab world to be on the same side with Israel, with Palestine, fighting, security threats from those other countries.
So there is a question from an anonymous user that was sent to us. Friends, it's okay. You also use your own name. We will not tell the Iranians, don't worry. But the question basically goes around the perception of Israel and the Jews. Because it was very negative for many years. I'm not saying about Bahrain, but in many countries across the Middle East. Did this perception, in your understanding, changed during the last few years? Because we know, for example, that Bahrain has its own Jewish community, a proud Jewish community, and I just recently participated in a extraordinary Kabbalat Shabbat, the acceptance of this Saturday, with Her Majesty the Ambassador Nunu, and there were many people, rabbis, who now reside across the Gulf countries. And actually, a friend of mine, who is, I told you this before the beginning of the Zoom, who is a friend, who is a Jewish American businessman, who lives now between Israel and the Gulf and the US. And he does it for years. He tells me, listen, it's kind of the safest place now to be a Jew, ironic as it is, but it is. So what can you tell in this regard? Because this is something that the issue of anti-Semitism, I think that again for Jews in the diaspora specifically, it feels disconnected, in that it must be disconnected from this question of Israel. For example, we see anti-Semitism against college students who are Jews. Even the calls for genocide. And it's like, oh my God, these are, Jewish Americans. How do you feel about it?
Well, I always like to start with the story of Bahrain. And, even when I was 6, 7, 8 years old, in the neighborhood, there was an old matriarch of the Jewish family there, Khadori family. Her name was Nazima. She come for afternoon morning coffee with my mother. And my mother doesn't speak English. And I used to go to an international school. And she would show me off, come say to Auntie Nazima, good morning, and say hello to her and speak to her in English. And now here 6, 7, 8-year-old talking to this larger than you can imagine in life lady sitting in our house having coffee, and she's like, hello, how are you? And we were, to us, there is no difference between a Bahraini Jew or a Muslim Jew or a Christian, a Bahraini Jew or a Bahraini Muslim or a Bahraini Christian. We have Bahraini Christian too. So I cannot speak about Bahrain. That we are one and nothing changed. Now, even if you would say in the religious countries of Saudi Arabia, it would be wrong to assume and to generalize that there is this hatred of Jews. No. Obviously, the ultra-religious, in the same way that you have in Israel, ultra-Orthodox, there are, I think, yes, there would be a few of those who would find it difficult to sit in the same room, but you cannot generalize the general public. They don't care of what religion you come from. It's the person that you are, I think, before anything else. It doesn't really matter. And in the end of the day, everybody wants a better life today, right? So they're going to be kind and nice and do business with whoever is going to improve their lifestyle or improve their life within themselves. So I think I'm optimistic about this, that especially if there is a solution in the future that will make things even better, but they're not as bad as people seem to think. I think what's going on in the campuses of the United States today and in some parts of Europe, you'd never see in the Arab world today.
Yeah, this is exactly how it feels, by the way. I'm following all of the statements of the Arab leaders in Bahrain and Saudi, in the United Arab Emirates. And yes, when you compare them to some statements of some governments in, for example, Northern Europe, or what is going on, as you mentioned, in the campuses, then you definitely feel the moderation. I mean, there is criticism of Israel, yes, but it's kind of natural. But there is also harsh criticism of the Hamas as well. We have another question from Barbara Landau. Sadly, the current governments of Israel and the PA lack public support, and neither is seriously accepting of a two-state solution, which seems essential. How do you see any interim governance of Gaza, the West Bank, and Israel as they hold new elections, hopefully with leaders committed to achieve two-state through peaceful negotiations? It's a tough one.
Yeah, well, actually, I mean, give me a Palestinian who doesn't want a two-state solution. Now, you might say Hamas and other, if there are other extreme factions who want to see, the riddance of Israel, they don't speak, they're not allowed voice. The majority of the Palestinians and the rest of the Arab world are the people who count. They want to see a two-state solution. Now, I think the ball is in the court with the Israeli government to see if they want a two-state solution. And we need to figure out the boundaries and the details of how this two-state solution should look like. Let's start with the basics. You want to secure safe Israel, and you want to ensure that the people of Israel don't come under any threat. And Israel is there to stay, till the end of time. But the Palestinians deserve to live as normal human beings with freedom and be able to run their country independently. Now, to get there doesn't mean that we open the gates fully open from the beginning. We can take it through a transitional period, but definitely the players have to change. And I think the Palestinians who are there, and they're not going to be going anywhere, and they will continue to cause a threat if they continue to be living as they are today, should end up with their end goal with the support of the right people behind them. So I can see this happening. For sure, I can see this happening. But it takes will and it takes commitment. Money is going to be made available. That's never going to be the issue. But you need to ensure security and safety and a period of trust. We need to start building trust in small baby steps, but it needs to move fast. And the day after, we cannot just go back to where we were before October the 7th. We have to think forward, and we have to get the right players there. And we cannot continue to depend on the players in the PA today to take this forward. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I think our foreign minister recently went, and Abu Mazen has accepted that elections has to be one of the first things that takes place, and supervised and independent, and there has to be a change. But there has to be that kind of willingness from both sides. And I think the Israeli people need to listen from people, hopefully not just me, but other people from the Arab world, to say, we come as friends, and believe us that you will not be left alone with any future Palestinian state. We will be there. We will ensure the transitional period. We will be there standing to make sure that both sides stick to their part of the deal. So I think maybe with this larger picture, we can get that kind of support.
Yes, hopefully. Just a small remark. I can tell you that during each time that there were steps of goodwill, baby steps, as you mentioned them, yes, negotiations that took place, there, according to polls, the support of the two-state solution immediately went up on the Palestinian side. And for Israel, of course, it went up during the times of security, when there were no suicide bombings, there were no rocket fire. Then, of course, more people were convinced that this is a good idea. We have time for yet the last question now from Marcy Gerston. Does the Sheikh believe the expansion of the Abraham Accords to other countries, such as Saudi Arabia, should be contingent or integrating the Palestinians into the accords?
Well, I think, unfortunately, I wasn't privy or can, confirm what kind of deal was supposed to have taken place before October 7th between Saudi Arabia and Israel. Now, I believe Saudi Arabia was willing to make some kind of gesture, but it would have wanted something in return. We went in and took the plunge with nothing in return. We went in to say to the Israeli people, here we are jumping in the deep end, and we're not asking for anything in return but to gain your trust and to work together with you. I don't think Saudi Arabia would have done that. I think Saudi Arabia would have bargained for something in return. Now, so having said that, yes, I think Saudi Arabia is willing to be a playing partner. And oh my God, what a player it would be. I think it's so important for Saudi Arabia to be there. If not in the beginning, in the room, and you never know, today Prince Mohammed bin Salman has surprised us all by making such bold decisions, and he might even do that. If he might, allow Saudi Arabia to be in the negotiating room from the start, but with an end goal, because it wouldn't look good if nothing would come out of it. So yes, Saudi Arabia and us, the original Abraham Accord players, as well as the the other international players, should all be sitting around and take this and take it step by step.
So if you allow me, dear Sheikh, there is another question. It's very important, but you would need to answer very quickly. And again, this question is very serious, so it will be a tough task. If we look to American foreign policy, there seems to be no appetite for war with Iran, nor is there anything in place for regime change. Therefore, how can Arab countries or Western countries counter Iranian influence or the threat of its proxies?
Well, just to be quick, I think the American administration should play a bigger role in its foreign policy in this issue itself, and they have been, to the American administration, countering Iran and terrorist activity is their number one priority. But we would like closely behind that is to solve this issue of the Israeli-Palestinian question as well. So there is a diplomatic effort as well as a national, threat issue to take care of. So they should really give them both importance.
All right. So thank you very much, dear Sheikh.